It's been 16 months since Phantom Manor closed for refurbishment. For a while, it felt like it'd never reopen. The predicted opening dates kept getting pushed back. There was news about asbestos in the ride. It was radio silence from Disney for months, with the only updates coming from fan sites. And its presence was sorely missed for Disney fans.
Phantom Manor? It was being refurbished. I fucking hate you, Disney.
But, on April 30th, the Manor finally welcomed guests once more to much fanfare. Some questions were answered and new questions were asked. And we're here to talk about all of them. If you remember, a few months ago I made a video talking about some theories surrounding the Phantom's identity. A lot of you seemed to like it, and you gave out some theories of your own. Now the day has come, and I promised a follow-up video. Kinda feels like the end of an era. Normally, with Disney rides, we never really get our questions answered, so this is kind of unprecedented. But, not gonna beat around the bush any longer. I know why you're here. So here we go. The Phantom is...
the Phantom. He is the father of Melanie. No man was ever good enough for his daughter, and so one by one, all of the suitors seem to disappear.
Based on a lot of the comments I gotten through just talking to fellow fans, this is probably a shock to very few of you. As I said last time, it's in the official story that got passed around by fans. It's a no-brainer for a lot of people, but not for everyone, and there was a big reason for that. The ride never made that clear. Watch footage and ignore everything you know about the backstory. Are there many hints to the Phantom being Henry in the ride scenes? Honestly, no. Nothing indicates that it's the case. The only way you would know is if you did your own research. The Phantom and Melanie barely interacted. The only scene they're together in was the ballroom. All he did was laugh at her. That won't tell you much of anything. Melanie is never named, at least in places where guests can see, and Henry is only named on his tombstone. That was always a problem with the original ride. They wanted to have a unique story, but didn't actually show or tell it. Compare this to the Haunted Mansion. It's not trying to tell a deep story, so it can be ambiguous and you can draw your own conclusions about the characters. Draw as many of them as you want. Even for the characters that do have a more concrete backstory, you can understand them without reading the manual. You don't have to know anything about Constance to get what she's about. It's all there for you to see in the visuals and her dialogue. Phantom Manor didn't have that, and if they wanted to tell a concrete story within the ride, they didn't do a very good job. On the plus side, because it's ambiguous, you could interpret it a number of ways. That was part of the appeal in my eyes. You could take what you wanted from the backstory, combine it with ride and supplementary materials like parades and live shows, and make it your own. Hell, that's why I made the video in the first place. However, they finally made it clear. No more room for ambiguity. We can finally say that yes, Henry Ravenswood is the Phantom. They made it very clear what kind of a relationship he had with his daughter, and the visuals are effective. And though there's still a bit of confusion regarding some dialogue, but we'll get to that. What else has changed? Well, in the original ride, Melanie only had the one fiancé that died. His name's Jake, according to Jeff Burke. This time, there are 4 of them, all that died under mysterious circumstances. It's implied that Henry was involved one way or another. None of the new fiancés look like him, and his name is not mentioned either. In a handout that was given on opening night, there was no mention of a missing foreman. Had he been written out of the story if the paper omitted him? Well, he is still hanging in the attic's rafters. Melanie's still doing the wandering around in her gown for decades bit. Madame Leo's spiel still keeps the vanishing groom line, so nothing contradicts Jake's existence, but it's still odd they decided to omit references to him. He's the entire reason why Melanie is so sad. Adding the extra fiancés makes that a little less meaningful. If she had been through so many heartbreaking deaths, she should be used to it by now. Okay, I'm being facetious, but you get my point, right? On that note, and this might be a little bit of a stretch, but hear me out, the other fiancés bring some similarities with another Disney park character. Comparisons between Melanie and Constance have always been around, but whether intentional or not, the update highlights them. Unlike in the original version, Melanie never really interacts with the guests except for once, the very end. In the mirror scene, she sits in your doom buggy with her hands clasped together, asking you to marry her. Remind you of anyone? According to Imagineers, she was just a little stir-crazy, but I don't get those vibes from the sound of her voice. Maybe that's just me. Listen to it yourself.
Will you marry me?
Doesn't really help much that this scene is immediately preceded by the Phantom showing us her casket. Makes me think they might be in cahoots with each other. To make matters worse, the mayor of Phantom Canyon gets some new dialogue. Of them, he says this.
Welcome, but beware of hitchhiking ghosts.
If you know your Haunted Mansion, you know that line is typically followed by this.
They have selected you to fill our quota. and they'll haunt you until you return.
With the ride taking out her kinder moments, like her greeting you as you entered, warning you not to go down the endless hallway, and pointing you towards the exit, I can't help but think Melanie might not be as innocent as she seemed. Though again, that might just be me. Besides those major changes, everything else is basically the same. They even got the bus to sync up with the music. Seriously, in every single Phantom Manor ride-through I've seen, the bus start dragging the tempo. There were some changes to the score, but as of writing this video, it's been restored to the original version. Zombie Phantom at the end is gone, he's just a skeleton throughout. But besides that, it's the same ride that you remember with minor tweaks. Except, of course, for the narration. It was well publicized beforehand that Vincent Price's narration would be returning to the manor. Price was of course an absolute legend and was the perfect choice for a Ghost Host style narration, but his original lines were cut from the ride. Officials required them to use a French narrator instead. Now the spiel is bilingual with some French dialogue spliced between. Not too dissimilar to Madame Leota, actually. Whoever did the new French narration is incredibly good because it sounds just like Vincent Price speaking in French. It's like the first time I heard Donald Duck in Japanese. If you have heard Price's narration, there'll be some dialogue that's new to you. When recording this kind of dialogue, a lot of stuff gets left on the cutting room floor. If you do a little digging, you can find outtakes from Paul Frees's Ghost Host narration. Among the new dialogue is this line.
The real beauty of this house awaits us, Father Roth, and she's dying to meet you. And beware the phantom.
Remember what I said earlier about minor confusions? This is what I was talking about. We've been under the assumption that the narrator is a phantom for decades. This one line throws a wrench into that theory. Why would the phantom warn guests about himself? Wouldn't he prefer his victims to not suspect him? Why is he referring to himself in third person? Unless the narrator isn't the phantom. Maybe that's Jake giving us our introduction and trying to warn us about the guy that killed him. I mean, people thought that Master Gracie was the Ghost Host for the same reason. Maybe I'm just overthinking a line of dialogue that might not have been completely thought through. All excellent reasons. Oh, and one last thing to address. Yes, they continue through with officially making the Phantom Henry Ravenswood, despite all the romantic interpretations from Disney that came from as recent as last year. In fact, they had new costume characters out on opening night that is much more accurate to the current version of the ride. What a contrast from what we got last fall. I've read some people say that they weren't supposed to be the Phantom and Melanie and are completely separate characters. Yeah, I call bull. It's a bride and a skeleton on a float that looks exactly like the Manor. It'd be like having two characters on a magic carpet, dressed in Arabian costumes, but they're not supposed to be Aladdin and Jasmine. Even if that was the intention, they can't be shocked that people interpreted it in a different way. God help them if they decide to bring them back out at Halloween later this year. So if you are a Phantom Melanie shipper who's a little salty that they unintentionally pulled a bait and switch on you, Disney gave you all this. No matter what they add into the ride, they can't take that away from you. But that's all I had to say about the new Phantom Manor. Now I want to pass the question up to you. What did you think of the updates? Is there anything from the original that you wish would be brought back? Do you have any new conspiracy theories surrounding the stories? What did you think about any of the ideas I put forth in this video? Whatever you're thinking, let me know down in the comments. I loved reading what you had to say last time, so get typing. Thanks for sticking around. I know it's been a while since I last uploaded anything. A lot of life stuff has been coming up, and I haven't had much time to just sit down, script, and edit a video. I've also had some issues figuring out where this channel is going to, but I've decided I'm just not going to worry about that. I'm just going to make whatever kind of videos I want. Hope you'll stick around to see all that. But, thank you so much for watching as always, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.